curses, ghost stories, okay, sure. But the idea that a place could actually be cursed, that just seems silly to me. So when I inherited my great-aunt's old manor at the edge of a town in Germany, I didn't think twice about moving in. The house was massive and old, with ivy crawling up the walls and a beautiful forest all around the house. It was far away from everything, just what I thought I needed, a fresh start. The manor was a kind of escape, a place to get away from all the noise and chaos of the big cities in the U.S. The locals in the nearby village had their own ideas about the place. They warned me about it, saying things like, "That house is cursed," and "people don't last long there." They said the last owners disappeared without a trace, but I just laughed it off. Small town superstition, right? The first few days were peaceful. The house was huge, and I spent most of my time exploring. Every room seemed to have its own story, its own character. I could almost feel the history in the air, thick like dust. But after a while, I started noticing strange things. At first, it was just small stuff, like how I'd leave a door open and come back to find it closed, or how a hallway seemed longer or shorter than I remembered. I figured I was just getting used to the layout of the house. It was old and creaky after all. But then, things got weirder. One night, I woke up to find that the door to my bedroom wasn't where it had been the night before. It used to be on the left side of the room, but now it was on the right. I'm not the kind of person who gets scared easily, but that really threw me off. I tried to tell myself that I must have been mistaken, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The next day, I left a chair in the hallway just to see if I was imagining things. When I came back, the chair was in the living room. I hadn't moved it, and no one else was in the house. The realization hit me slowly. The house, it was changing. The walls were shifting, as if the house was alive. Believe me, I know it sounds crazy, but almost like it had a mind of its own. The changes started happening more often. I'd walk into the kitchen, only to find myself in the study. Rooms I'd been in 100 times would suddenly be completely different. The house was playing tricks on me, and I started to feel like I was losing my grip on reality. I'd stand in front of a door, hesitating to open it because I didn't know what would be on the other side. I tried to leave, more than once actually, but every time I thought I was heading for the front door, I'd find myself back in some random room. It was like the house was deliberately confusing me, keeping me trapped. The longer I stayed, the more it felt like the walls were closing in, like the house was trying to swallow me whole. I stopped unpacking. There didn't seem to be a point when I couldn't even trust the walls to stay in the same place. I spent most of my time wandering room to room, trying to make sense of it all. But the more I tried to understand what was happening, the more the house seemed to shift and change, like it was reacting to my thoughts. The worst part was the feeling of being watched. I'd be sitting alone, and suddenly, I'd feel this intense pressure, like eyes pouring into the back of my head. I'd turn around, but of course there was never anyone there. The house was empty, except for me, but I could feel it watching me, waiting. I started hearing things too, soft, almost silent whispers, like someone talking just out of earshot. It made my skin crawl. Sometimes it sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. Other times, it was right behind me, making my heart race. I tried to ignore it, to pretend it wasn't happening, but the more I ignored it, the louder it got. It's hard to explain what that does to a person, knowing that the place you're living in isn't just haunted, but alive, shifting and changing around you. I started questioning everything. Was I really hearing these things? Was the house really moving? Or was I just going mad? One night, I found myself in a room I didn't recognize. It was small and cramped, with no windows and only one door. I turned the knob, but the door wouldn't budge. That's when it hit me. I was trapped. The house had finally gotten what it wanted. It had me right where it wanted me, lost and alone.